notice gray is raising to 2.5 big blinds. And I actually think this is a good adjustment against good players. Against good players, you don't care if they fold pre-flop. So how do you make them fold pre-flop? Well, you raise it a little bit bigger. You don't induce them to call you with 6-3 offsuit. If they're going to call with 6-3 offsuit, then just check fold every flop. Well, then that's great. But you have to understand, we're playing against players who are going to defend the 6-3 offsuit, then check raise you out of your seat half the time. What am I drinking? I'm drinking oolong tea. And I need to get some more because the cup is empty. Like right here, you don't really want gray defending with 8-4 suited. Imagine you make it 2.7 big blinds and he folds. He's folding a hand that has like 40-something% equity. Maiden says, what do I think about late registering? Like you say, it drops your return on investment in exchange for getting you some time. So, what's your time worth? Some people's time is worth stone nothing unless they're playing poker. So, if imagine in the early stage of the tournament, you're going to make $50 an hour, and in the late stage, you're going to make $300 an hour. But if you're sitting on the couch, you're just like antsy and want to go play poker, you should probably just make your $50 an hour. Origami. They can have a larger prize pool, but that doesn't necessarily mean the tournament is better to play. A big prize pool does not mean the tournament is good. What defines a good tournament is the composition of the players. And Cloaks and Daggers says the $11 tournament, for example, on Sundays has a $100K guarantee, but first place gets less than $10K, which is like, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And that's because 30% of the people are taking $10 a pop or whatever. But yeah, Maiden, you can play much more volume. I understand that. Also depends on what you're trying to do. Like, my issue whenever I'm playing is that I want to play roughly $50 tournaments and higher. So on a given Sunday, when I'm playing online, I'll just load up legitimately every $50 and higher game, and I still have plenty of room on my screen. So volume is not really an issue for me because, like I said, I'm happy to 24 table. And volume's not really an issue. If you're playing like $5 games, though, you have a lot of options available. And sure, you know, if you realize your volume is capped, you want to make sure you're playing as much volume as you can with the highest ROI you can. I will tell you, though, I've been working with the Poker backing group for a few years now, and almost no one makes money from turbo tournaments. And when you buy in late, it basically makes the first 2 or 3 levels for you like a turbo tournament. There's a lot of money to be made in the first 2 levels. What bankroll would you suggest to have on WSOP to have a good time there? I guess you mean if you're going to the World Series, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? What are you wanting to do? Do you even want to play a World Series event? Do you want to play the main event? Do you want to play something every day? You know, you can do the World Series of Poker in many different ways. So let's see what happens here. So we have 8-8 raising. We're definitely going to see Calcular 3-bet. Welcome, Ghost of M. It's nice to see you today. And now, are we going to have a jam from the ace-queen suited or just a call? We are playing only 5-handed, so you will see people re-raising the, you know, quote-unquote under-the-gun player more often than if we were playing 9-handed. And I did expect the ace-queen to shove, but it's pretty rough, because when you get called, you're often not loving it. So, Maiden, in live tournaments, if they're going to actually have a field that shows up and plays on time, like any main event, I definitely show up, I'm there for the first hand, because someone gives it away in the first level every time. Online, quite often, my time in my mind is more valuable than playing the early levels. For example, the $500 tournament that I took, whatever place I did the other day, 7th or 8th or whatever, I bought in last second. And I mean, I'm cool. Like if you have nothing going on, you might as well play. If you have stuff going on, then maybe it's a little bit different. But I realize I basically have to win 2 or 3 flips to have a real stack. So I'm not even getting to play like an eighth. I'm only going to get to play 1/8 of the time. And that's fine with me. One hand sample size. Yes, my skin is the color of my tan wall. Need more vitamin D, indeed. All right, tiny stack all in. Whenever you see a tiny stack all in, it's in the best interest of the medium stacks to bust that guy. Because if you bust this guy, now you know you're not taking 5th place anymore. Crown Up guy, though, he has a big incentive to not bust this guy. Because if he busts this guy, now he can't push around these 3 players nearly as much. No, I do not play in New Jersey. New Jersey is like an hour away, and I'm not going an hour away to play online poker. Wouldn't it be better to play cash games over late registering? It depends on your return on investment, right? A lot of tournament players can't even beat small stakes cash games. So it's not worth, they should not do that, right? Yeah, I don't really get tanned. I get burnt. So I typically don't go outside. That's not true. I do only get burnt, though. I don't think I've ever had a tan in my life. I'm more pink than tan. Jack 6 offsuit defend. Vince Vega, welcome. Good to see everyone here today. We're watching a fun final table. We're going to see if Crown Up guy can win. Spoiler alert, he can. Option Ken, again, we discussed how I don't really want to be playing poker whenever I'm at home because I want to make training videos for you all and make articles and write books and be with my family. Also, I tried to download the websites a few times when I was at Borgata, but they have to like triangulate your cell phone or some BS. And for some reason, I could not play on Borgata.com while I was staying at the Borgata. So I kind of gave up on that. It's just not worth the effort. Like I said, I don't need to play one $500 tournament. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, 1-hand sample size. Most of them probably already knew Fedor won when they got here at the final table. Oh, that's fun. I haven't really played with Fedor much, but the few times I have, he's just like played these most insane hands. He tried to, like one time I think I raised early position, he 3-bet, I think it was King 8 of clubs. I had pocket 9s and I called and it came like 9-4-2, 2 clubs. And we just got it all in and he just had a marginal flush draw and I had the set and I won and he was out. And then another time I watched him, he played this ridiculous hand with ace king and somehow his opponent was bluffing. And like he somehow like check raised the flop, called a re-raise, check called the turn, check called the river for a ton of money and the guy just had nothing. Yo, Duper, when you say beat the cash games, large or small stake, what sample time period do you mean? I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a weird question in that the question was, would you rather register for a tournament on time or play cash games instead? And it really just depends on your hourly rate. If you're going to win $10 an hour at cash games and you think you're going to win $4 an hour playing the first level of a tournament, then yeah, you should play cash games. One of my good friends, Justin Young, does this. He was actually just on Poker After Dark. Apparently he had a good score. I'm not going to spoil that for everyone. There's a fun hand. Did not pay attention to it. But anyway, he skips the first 3 or 4 levels of every tournament and plays 10, 20, or 25, 50 cash games. But yeah, sample size. I mean, you don't know if you're winning until you've put in a big sample. And quite often a sample is very, very big. And you know that by playing a ton. This seems like an easy call for the King 4 suited. I don't know why he would not call. Again, this is a spot where the medium stack, especially this exact medium stack, should be pretty call happy. I should look into accepting Bitcoins on my site. Yeah, maybe. Seems like a difficult one more thing, you know. There's definitely this thought process in the process of selling things. You don't want to overload people with too many possibilities, too many options. But at the same time, you want to give people the opportunity to buy stuff. So you're right. So Lex the Boss, I just posted a blog post on jonathanlowpoker.com where I played Poker Night in America. We'll see if I can find it. jlpoker.com. I'll find you the link. We played Poker Night in America. I won a little bit. I was either, at the end of the day, going to win 15K or 60K if I won this last all-in. And, come on, website. And I did not win my last all-in. This is only day 1 of the footage. Day 2 got messed up because well, someone decided to talk bad about the casino where we were playing, and that was clearly dumb. Well, here we have an all-in, so Gray's gone. Goodbye, Gray. But anyway, there's, I guess about 7 or 8 hours of me playing cash games. On that day, it went really well. I actually had a lot of medium-strength hands, and I ended up not just playing a lot of medium-strength pots. Vince Vega, I'm glad you enjoy the book. You Purdue. I mean, if you're on a couple month downswing, again, time frame is irrelevant. What is relevant is the number of hands. If you play like 5,000 hands in 2 months, that's no hands at all. If you're playing 300,000 hands in 2 months, then you're probably just not good. So, the number of hands or the number of games you have played is the relevant stat. But do I play a lot of cash games? I don't play a lot of cash games, but I play some cash games. I used to play more cash games when the tournament schedules were not as good. There used to be a lot of downtime. And now there's no downtime because every day there's 2 or 3 tournaments. In the past, there's only 1 tournament. So now I have not played quite as many cash games. Hast. Let me think about this. Go to jlpoker.com/products, and you'll see a few webinars there on small stakes cash games. I went and I played small stakes cash games. I wrote this book, Strategies. This is the wrong one. I wrote this book, Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Cash Games, and I went and I played 1-2 at Borgata for a few days and crushed it. So, we wrote a book about it. It discusses a lot of little things you can do. It's not a big book. It's only, 100 pages or so. How many pages is this? 111 pages. King Jack suited. This seems like a call to me. But anyway, that's a good book on small stakes cash games. But also check out the products at jlpoker.com/products or training videos, one of the two. Good call there with the King Jack suited, I think, even though you lost. Is the home game still running? Yes, the home game runs every Monday. We're actually going to be restarting that soon. We're going to have a special home game for the pokercoaching.com members as well. So we will have... I'll be streaming the home game more is what it amounts to. Well, here we are heads up. I don't know how long we're going to watch this heads up match. We're both very deep stacked. Do I think tournaments are more profitable than cash games? Well, Lex, that depends a lot on how much you're winning per hour, right? I mean, in theory, cash games should be more profitable than tournaments because you can play bigger cash games than you can play tournaments. So this is how Crown Up Guy does it. He makes top pairs. It's a fun little check raise. Did he check raise? Yeah, I guess he check raised. Yeah, why not? This is a spot where with the random hands like this that you can't really check call with, you either need to check fold or check raise. And with the backdoor gut shot, overcard, etc., you might as well. The dude, no, I did not feel like I had a target on my back. No one knew who I was. The people playing 1-2, at least at Borgata, were completely oblivious to anything that was going on at that table. It was by far the softest game I've ever played in, and they were just trying to give the money away. All you have to do is sit there, play good cards, steal every pot where they're obviously done with the hand, and just go from there. Like, I think I played 1 all-in the whole time, and I had aces. And I won, like, every single small pot. It was, I mean, I'm telling you, it was the easiest game I've ever played in my life. And I won, like, $40 an hour or something at 1-2, which is obviously running hot, right? I mean, I was clearly running hot. But even if I'm not running hot, $20 an hour is still quite nice. Anyway, I list how I do it completely in this book. Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Cash Games. You can get it on Amazon. It's usually just right at the top of the poker section because it's teaching everyone how to beat these games. All right, so here we had a raise and then a check back on the flop. Then we're both in call down mode. Yeah, Hast. I don't really attack the limpers so much. Raising the limpers is good if they're going to fold a lot, but they don't really fold a lot in my experience. So instead, just try to see the flop and then make good hands and then don't fold. Notice here, Maka's betting a marginal hand, and very often when you're betting the marginal hands, you want to be betting on the smaller side. Just make sure you have some bluffs in your range too. I don't know what Crown Up Guy is going to do here. I mean, folding seems insane. I'm either calling, but I don't know why I would ever raise. So I guess in my mind, he does decide to bluff. See, I would never do this in a million years. Like, why would you not do this with flush draws? It seems like doing this with flush draws makes so much more sense. Maybe he bets all the flush draws on the flop. You know, the backdoor flush draws, maybe he bets all those on the flop. I don't know. Gets called anyway. If you get called anyway, well then, clearly the bluff was not so good. But I definitely do plan on playing more cash games over the next year. I think the people at Poker Night in America enjoyed me playing there. And I let the people at Poker After Dark know that I wanted to play. So I'm going to go try to do more of that. Here we have the good old limp bet. So I don't really have much of a limping strategy playing 90 big blinds deep. I certainly will when we're playing shallower. I discussed this with the Inner Circle as well just the other day. Heads up strategy with 25 big blinds. I was using roughly this strategy. And then I discuss adjustments we were going to use. Once it became clear he was jamming a lot, we were going to start limping more nut hands, also start folding some of the garbage, etc., etc. But this is roughly 25 big blind strategy. And this lets you play a lot of hands as opposed to just a min raise or fold strategy. Because you can't min raise 8-4 offsuit because you're going to have to fold too much of your range to a jam. Yeah, so Hast. I mean, if they're calling any pre-flop raise size, just play tight. So if people will call any pre-flop raise size or use gigantic raise sizes themselves, it's almost like the blinds don't matter. So if you're playing a game with no blinds, what should your strategy be? Well, it's just to play kind of tight and make the nuts and then put your money in. Fedor is extremely talented and runs like God. Yes, both. Two of those things. So I'm kind of surprised the 5-2 didn't bet. There are a lot of worse draws in Fedor's range, like 10-9 and Queen 10 and hands like that are going to win this at Showdown. Or if he decides to bluff. I mean, if you're going to check the 5-2 here, you probably need to check raise it. I'm kind of surprised at that seems like a little bit of a weak hand. Have you found any mistakes in Fedor's play? I assume whatever Fedor does is right. I'm more so looking to find mistakes in my play. One thing we did see is that he min-raised aces, and he made every other hand 2-point-something X. So that was interesting. That's not necessarily a mistake. I mean, he got action, so it probably wasn't a mistake, but something to be aware of. It was a deviation. He defends the big blind incredibly wide, and that's worth mentioning because you know to keep that in mind when you're playing against him. You probably want to raise a little bit stronger of a range if they're going to be defending super wide. He does a lot of flop and turn check raises and leads that I don't really have in my game, so I need to look into that. But he plays different than I do, which is clear because he's winning all the big games. So here we have a king high check, king on the turn check, and then you can just easily call the river, so I think that's good. Does the queen high bluff? Probably not. Your opponent's never folding a pair. You don't need to bluff if your opponent's never folding a pair. Real question is, do you check call river? I would say probably not. You would think Fedor would bet at some point with Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, 7-6. He would have to bet all those at some point earlier. So it seems like a pretty easy fold. Lex the Boss. I mean, that 10-9 was a bluff, I think. I mean, I don't know what that 10-9 was. Like I said, I don't know what he's doing. That seemed like an insane play to me. Maybe he read into the opponent's small bet size and thought that was a very weak range. All right, so here we see something that I like a lot. We have a raise and we have a 3-bet from the 6-3 offsuit. If you watch me play heads up against Stoken the other day in the 10K, I did this a decent amount as well. You want to be 3-betting your hands that fall below your opponent's calling range. And that's going to be stuff like this. Because it's not quite good enough to call a pre-flop raise, so you turn it into a bluff. Another benefit of this is, say you did defend pre-flop instead, and you flop a pair, you're now losing to a lot of the hands that are going to be 4-betting you, like 10s do, right? So there, you lose 8 big blinds, which sucks, but you make your 3-betting range wider, which is usually a good thing. And also, you'll frequently lose less when you at least get set up. But that's a good play there with the 6-3. Some people look at that and think that's insane, but it's actually just good poker. All right, check back middle pair on the flop. That's good. What's the best way to learn ranges? McDuvu. I would focus more on your strategy first and then try to figure out what other people are doing. You have to understand that whatever range you put your opponent on is going to be incorrect. A lot of people try to be very specific with ranges. I personally leave them wide open because I don't know what people are doing. I mean, you're not clairvoyant. You don't know. I do have a book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em, that will help you a lot when it comes to your hand ranges. I also have a website, pokercoaching.com. You can sign up for a free 1-week trial and go back and rewatch the old homework webinars where we discuss a ton about how to play ranges. So definitely go back, look at those, binge watch it, cancel the subscription. I don't care. I just want you to get better. And there you can find lots of homework examples, or lots of range examples in the past homework. So yeah, Hast, whenever they're making it 10x pre-flop and you're only playing 100 big blinds deep, you can't play hands that need implied odds. If the stacks are deep, then sure. But yeah, 150 to 300 big blinds deep, if someone's making it 10x, yeah, you can play a lot of suited aces and whatnot. This is a pretty good flop. So the dude mentions basically Fedor's lucky. And while a lot of the people who are running or who are winning all the tournaments are being lucky, oh, they banned the dude. I would not have banned the dude for that. I did not ban the dude. Sorry, the dude. I guess you're banned now. If someone is winning often and consistently, they're probably just good. So, do we value bet the river? Pot's quite big already. I would assume no. As the pot gets bigger, very often you don't want to be value betting quite as thinly, but look at Fedor, just getting after it. Never Bluff says, Fedor's pre-flop ranges were very similar to the ranges in Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand, pre-flop is not the hard part. Pre-flop's the easy part, because there's only like 10,000 spots. Post-flop is where things get really tricky. Like right here, I would not have value bet. So there are a lot of spots where he's making these abnormal plays on the turn in the river, and these are spots that are very, very, very high, are very, very hard to learn because there's like a bajillion spots, right? So anyway, right there, he bets for value and does not get called from ace high, right? I think you'll find that a lot of the best players really are going for somewhat thin value, maybe to a fault. You see Darren Alliance do this a lot. That said, he's winning a lot of tournaments. So you say he did get a call. Okay, yeah, he did get called. All right. Well, you're right. Sorry, my bad. It went so quickly I didn't see. Good bet. It gets called, right? I think it's kind of clear that Maka's a bit of a calling station, which is not necessarily bad. Don't get me wrong. Being a calling station is not necessarily bad. But once you have identified your opponent as a calling station, you can be much more inclined to go for thin value. And you should. That's just playing good poker. But yeah, Fedor's doing it. So I don't know how much time is left in this game. This could last 5 minutes, or it could last 5 hours. Hopefully it doesn't last 5 hours. Let me think about this. I know I went to the gym, and I came back at like 9:30, and it had already restarted. But I don't know when it started. We probably have like 30 more minutes at the most. So Lizarna says, Fedor is an expert at maximizing value from what we have seen. Yeah, he's definitely gotten some value, that's for sure. But Fedor has a bluffy image. So the question is, does your image matter that much if your opponents just assume you are good? So like, if you're bad and your opponents are aware that you're bad, they should be making significant adjustments to take advantage of you. If you're good, though, and your opponents know you're good, they should just strive to play as GTO as they possibly can. Because if we think Fedor is good, and probably knows how to play very good poker, then I'm not trying to take advantage of his mistakes because I'm not aware of his mistakes. And I don't even know what his mistakes are. And if I see some abnormally played hand, there's no way of knowing that was even a mistake. Maybe that was just one of these like spots where PokerStars says to make the check raise 2% of the time with the Jack-8 on 10-5-3. So it's hard to know. So you say we've seen some loose calls, and sometimes GTO is making very loose calls. I don't know about the spots necessarily, but like that 10-9 call versus the river check raise we saw just a second ago could have very easily been fine, or the river raise. And that's just because your bet sizing was so small and it is going to induce raises. So if your bet sizing is going to induce raises, well, you should not be folding nearly as often. One hand sample size says you missed a lot of this. Well, only one hand sample size. But call Fedor with ace high on the river when the draw is missed isn't super loose. Yeah, it's not super loose. The problem with that call there is that you have an 8 in your hand. And a lot of the hands that want to bluff you should contain an 8. So you'd much rather have ace 2, assuming there was 2 is not a pair. You'd much rather have ace 2 in that spot than ace 8, which is kind of interesting. Blockers are very important. As I have studied more and more, on the river, when calling in a spot where your opponent is very polarized, you typically need to call at the top of your range, but at the same time, when looking for additional bluff catchers to call, very often you want to call with whatever hands don't block your opponent's bluffs. And on a board that has like a 7, a 6, and a 5 on it, the bluffing hands contain a lot of 8s and a lot of 9s. So you really don't want to have a lot of 8s and a lot of 9s in your hand. And in that spot, Maka had an 8 in his hand. So that's a hand that you should probably not be calling with, even though it is technically better than ace 2. Now, that kind of implies your opponent's not bluffing with 10-9 or merging with 10-9 or whatever he's doing. But blockers are very relevant. All right, let's take a look at what the prizes were for this. Fedor's going to win. Sorry, spoiler. Are the prizes listed here? All right. $178K. Not so bad. Wouldn't an individual hand, quote-unquote, mistake often be a balancing play from a good player? Well, if a good player who's playing GTO just like runs PokerStars and looks at it and then does that, none of those are bad plays. You'll find that what is bad is doing things out of balance. Very often you'll look at a situation and it'll say like 33% of the time check, 33% of the time raise, and 30% of the time fold. And it means all the plays are equally good. What's important is that you do it in balance. Yeah, they're not allowed to run Pio in game, which is why they run it all the other time. Maglu, play the top 15% of hands. That is a horrible strategy and is not good to make you an actual good player. You need to get Mastering Small Stakes Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Tournaments. This is a good, easy book. It'll give you ranges to play. Nice, easy read, and it'll be very beneficial. But no, don't just play the same hands from all position. That will leave you in a lot of trouble because you're going to be playing too loose from early position and too tight from late position. So Lex, you say that. There was a podcast by Dominic Niche, he's thought to be like GTO master, who did a podcast interview with Remco on the, what's it called? I'm sure you all know what it's called. I was on the podcast a while back. Anyway, he interviews players, and he was talking about how really they've just effectively solved the game, and he knows what to do in all spots. I also know a player, Michael Acevedo, and he is writing a book for D&B Poker now. I got him his book deal. That he's working on a site that has effectively solved No Limit Hold'em. They've solved it. It's done. The hard part is implementing it. But he has a lot of videos on Pokar, the backing site, where he basically just plays purely GTO in his mind, and he's winning all these tournaments by running bluffs when he should, etc., etc., etc. Muxie Collins says, bad time to float. Yeah. Well, maybe this tournament's just over right now, 6 minutes into this. But yeah, I mean, Pile Solver is a game theory optimal solver. It is complex, but you have to understand, if you are imagine you were getting paid $1 million a year to learn Pile Solver. You'd probably just do that. Well, this is just good game, huh? No way Maka can fold this, I would not think. What a bad run out for him. Sometimes you just get bad runouts. So, should you ever consider folding this? Well, no, you're not. I was going to say, you just can't fold this. When you make top pair against Fedor, you lose. Trying to see if I have any other games up. All right, well, that was a good run out for Fedor, and he wins the tournament. I think that's going to be all for the stream today. The next stream is going to be on December 6th. So check that out. We'll be streaming something else. They have a lot of these high roller tournaments that you can currently watch replays on Stars. This was just the first one. So I'll just go back and find another good one and we'll review it. I know that the 10K had a very good final table. This one here, we'll go back and watch that one. But, so yeah, that's it. That's it for today. I want to thank you all for being here. If you have any questions, definitely let me know on Twitter at Jonathan Little. Make sure you sign up for your free PokerCoaching.com membership. You can go there and binge through all the quizzes and the homework and learn everything about poker that I even teach. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.